Welcome to Bite-Sized L&D, your quick, no-nonsense update on the latest in workplace learning. Today, we're diving into the intense competition for AI talent in Silicon Valley and uncovering why Meta's massive compensation packages aren't enough to keep top researchers around. All right, let's get straight into it.
Welcome back to Bite-Sized L&D. I'm Donna, and today we're diving into something that's got Silicon Valley buzzing, and not in a good way for everyone involved. I'm joined by Yakov Lasker, who's been tracking the wild world of AI talent acquisition. Yakov, before we get into the meat of this, can you paint us a picture? What does it look like when a tech CEO starts throwing around compensation packages that rival small countries' GDP?
Oh, Donna, buckle up, because we're talking about Mark Zuckerberg personally offering one AI researcher $1.5 billion over 6 years. And getting turned down. We're in an era where Meta's throwing around $100 million, signing bonuses, like their holiday bonuses. But here's the kicker. This isn't just about money. It's completely rewriting how we think about talent strategy and company culture.
Wait, hold up. $1.5 billion? That's not a typo?
Not a typo. And that person said no. But here's where it gets really interesting from an L&D perspective. Zuckerberg has created a literal list of AI all-stars he's targeting, like he's assembling the Avengers. This isn't traditional recruiting. This is strategic talent warfare.
So we're not talking about your typical competitive salary and great benefits job posting. But let's step back. Why is Meta doing this? What's driving this almost desperate-seeming strategy?
The brutal truth? Meta is coming from behind. After their metaverse pivot fell flat, Zuckerberg has reoriented the entire company around AI. And unlike Google or Microsoft, Meta doesn't have a cloud business to generate immediate revenue from their massive AI infrastructure investments. They're essentially betting the farm on getting to artificial general intelligence first.
That sounds like a massive cultural shift. I mean, how do you go from being a social media company to suddenly becoming an AI research lab?
That's exactly the right question, and it reveals the first major HR challenge. Meta's retention rate for AI talent is actually the worst among major players. Only 64% compared to Anthropic's 80%. Think about that. They're paying these astronomical amounts, but people are still leaving. That tells us something fundamental about culture versus compensation.
Oh, that's fascinating. So money isn't solving their retention problem. What's going wrong?
Well, Sam Altman from OpenAI put it perfectly when he said, missionaries will beat mercenaries. When you're recruiting purely on financial incentives, you're attracting people motivated by money rather than mission. The most sought-after researchers, many of whom are already independently wealthy, are selecting environments where they feel they can have the greatest long-term impact on artificial general intelligence.
So Meta's approach might actually be backfiring from a culture perspective?
Exactly. And here's where it gets really problematic for HR teams everywhere. Companies across the industry are now having to form separate AI peer groups to understand compensation for these roles. Your typical software engineer earning $150K suddenly sees AI researchers getting $10 million annually. How do you maintain internal equity when one department operates in a completely different economic reality?
Oh no, I can see where this is going. You've got your regular engineering team feeling undervalued, while the AI team is essentially treated like celebrities.
Bingo. And it's creating this weird two-tier system within companies. Meta CTO Andrew Bosworth even told employees, "We have a small number of leadership roles that we're hiring for, and those people do command a premium," basically admitting they're operating with different rules for different people.
That has to create tension. But I'm curious about the mechanics of this. How exactly is Meta executing this strategy?
It's like nothing we've seen before in corporate recruiting. Zuckerberg is personally reaching out to top talent, hosting potential hires at his homes in Palo Alto and Lake Tahoe, and even rearranging office seating to position the superintelligence team closer to him. The CEO is literally acting as head of recruitment for these roles.
That's actually kind of brilliant from a relationship building perspective. but also completely unsustainable as a recruiting model.
Right. And here's where the broader industry impact gets wild. In the past year, Meta has rated OpenAI for more than 20 hires, Google for 13, Apple for 3, XAI for 3, and Anthropic for 2. They're not just hiring individuals, they're systematically dismantling their competitors' teams.
So they're not just competing for talent, they're actively weakening their rivals. That feels like a different game entirely.
It is. And other companies are fighting back with their own creative approaches. OpenAI responded with an internal memo saying they were recalibrating compensation, and their stock-based compensation grew more than 5 times last year to 4.4 billion more than their total revenue.
Wait, more than their revenue? That's unsustainable.
Completely, and that's where we start seeing the cracks in this entire approach. Meta recently paused most hiring across its AI unit after months of offering 9-figure salaries. Even they seem to be realizing this isn't a long-term strategy.
So what happens next? Are we looking at a bubble that's about to burst?
Here's the thing. This isn't just about Meta anymore. Microsoft has hired around 24 employees from Google DeepMind. Google spent $2.4 billion to hire away an entire startup's team. The whole industry is adopting this approach of essentially buying talent rather than developing it.
And that has to have implications for how we think about learning and development, right? If companies are just poaching rather than growing talent.
Exactly. Entry-level hiring in tech has collapsed. New grads account for just 7% of big tech hires, down 50% from pre-pandemic levels. Companies are so focused on acquiring proven AI talent that they're abandoning their traditional role of developing the next generation.
That's actually terrifying from a talent pipeline perspective. We're essentially cannibalizing the future to solve today's problems.
And here's what's really fascinating. Sam Altman estimates there are many thousands of people capable of making key discoveries in superintelligence, but companies are acting like there are only 50 people on Earth who can do this work. It's creating artificial scarcity that's driving these insane compensation levels.
So we might be looking at a classic market inefficiency. But what about the human cost? What's this doing to the people involved?
Oh, that's where it gets really interesting. Personal ties and adherence to different philosophies about AI safety have created a tribal element. Researchers are choosing companies based on whether they believe in open source versus closed development, different approaches to AI safety. It's become deeply personal.
So we're not just talking about job changes. We're talking about people choosing sides in what they see as a philosophical battle for the future of humanity.
Exactly, and that's why Meta's purely financial approach might be fundamentally flawed. When Sam Altman criticized Meta's strategy, he said, the degree to which they're focusing on money, and not the work, and not the mission, I don't think that's going to set up a great culture.
But here's what I'm wondering. What does this mean for regular companies that don't have Meta's budget? How do they compete for AI talent?
That's the million-dollar question. Or should I say billion-dollar question? Smaller companies are having to get creative, focusing on generous equity offers, work-life balance, and the opportunity to work on cutting-edge problems. They literally cannot compete on pure compensation.
So it's forcing companies to actually think about what makes them attractive beyond just money?
Right. And that's actually healthy. But here's the concerning part. 3 senators have urged antitrust authorities to investigate how tech giants are consolidating AI market control through these aggressive recruitment strategies. We might be looking at regulatory intervention.
Oh, that's a whole other dimension. The government stepping in because talent acquisition itself is becoming anti-competitive.
And think about the precedent this sets. If throwing $1 billion at someone becomes normal for key roles, what happens to our entire concept of workplace equity and fair compensation?
Plus, there's the question of ROI. Meta needs to generate roughly $30 to $40 billion in new annual revenue to justify their $72 billion AI investment. That means growing their current business by nearly a quarter in just a few years.
And if they can't deliver on those returns, we're looking at one of the most expensive talent acquisition failures in corporate history. The pressure on these $100 million hires must be absolutely crushing.
So what should L&D professionals be taking away from this? How do we prepare for this new reality?
First, recognize that we're in a fundamental shift where certain specialized skills command celebrity-level compensation. Second, invest heavily in developing AI capabilities internally, rather than assuming you can just buy them later. And third, think seriously about mission and culture as retention tools. They might be your only competitive advantage against companies with unlimited budgets.
That last point feels crucial. If Meta with their billion-dollar offers still has retention problems, culture really might be the ultimate differentiator.
Exactly. And here's what's really wild. This whole strategy might already be falling apart. The disappointment with Meta's Llama language model led to them dismantling their AGI Foundations team. All that money, all that talent, and they still haven't achieved the breakthrough they're looking for.
So we might be witnessing the most expensive learning experience in corporate history. What happens if this approach definitively fails?
Then we go back to what actually works. Building strong cultures, investing in long-term talent development, and focusing on mission-driven work. But the damage to industry compensation expectations might take years to unwind.
Before we wrap up, what's your prediction? Is this the new normal, or are we in a bubble that's about to burst?
I think we're at the peak of unsustainability. When your stock-based compensation exceeds your revenue and you're still losing talent, something has to give. My prediction: we'll see a reset in the next 12-18 months where companies realize that sustainable cultures beat unsustainable compensation every time.
And for our listeners in L&D, that's actually good news. It means your expertise in developing people and building cultures is about to become more valuable than ever.
Absolutely, the companies that weather this storm will be the ones that invested in their people, rather than just buying mercenaries.
Yakov, this has been absolutely fascinating. The intersection of talent strategy, company culture, and industry disruption. It's like watching economic history unfold in real time.
Thanks for having me, Donna. And to everyone listening, pay attention to how this plays out. It's going to reshape how we think about talent for the next decade.
That's a wrap on this episode of Bite-Sized L&D. Next time you see news about another billion-dollar signing bonus, remember? There's a much bigger story about the future of work hiding behind those headlines. Until next time, keep learning.
And that's the end of today's podcast. We've explored the fierce competition for AI talent in Silicon Valley, highlighting Meta's aggressive recruitment strategies and the potential shift towards sustainable cultures, prioritizing mission-driven work over financial incentives. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends and colleagues, so they can also stay updated on the latest news and gain powerful insights. Stay tuned for more updates.